podcast where truth moves faster than a Holstein calf. No waiting on some pretty page. We're charting new ground in the digital age. From genomic codes to row-out facts, we cut through the noise, no holding back. Not your daddy's dairy news tonight. We're sparking debates with every insight. The ring's not where the real fight's at. It's in the data, in the channel chat. From pasture to processor to your morning cup, we're raising the stakes. Try and get ahead of herd. Yeah! Where the future's more than just a word. Ahead of herd. Come on! The bullvine's calling, let your voice be heard.
Welcome back to the Bullvine Podcast, where we cut through dairy industry noise to get you the insights that actually matter for your operation.
And today, well, we're diving deep into a feature piece that's been generating some serious buzz, really in the calf rearing world. This one's got layers. And Sarah, there are some surprises here that I think are going to make producers rethink how they've been approaching calf nutrition for, well, decades.
And the central contradiction really jumps out, doesn't it? That big, bold protein number on the feed bag, 18%, 20%, 22%. It might actually be, well, misleading you.
Exactly. Misleading you about the true nutritional value that calf is actually absorbing.
That's right. So our mission today is to deliver those actionable insights on calf health, to force you, the producer listening, to look past the large print on that feed tag, the protein, the fat, and really zero in on the fine print.
Because that fine print, specifically on micronutrient forms, it can literally cost or maybe save you 20% in lost performance and treatment costs.
Yeah, we're talking about these hidden deficiencies, the kind that sabotage even, the best management programs out there. It doesn't matter about your genetics, doesn't matter about your housing setup sometimes.
And this deep dive, it really matters right now because we're talking about more than just a temporary slowdown in growth. This isn't just a blip.
No.
We're discussing deficiencies that drain profit, even when operations think they're ticking all the boxes, technically meeting those textbook nutrient requirements.
The stakes are just incredibly high when we talk about young stock, aren't they? These calves are, they're literally the future of the herd.
Absolutely. And when a calf gets sick, especially in those first, say, 60 days, the immediate impact is obvious, right? You see the vet bill, you feel the labor involved in pulling and treating that calf, the cost of meds.
Right.
But the long-term cost,
right,
that's what should truly, it should terrify producers. That lost growth potential, it just never comes back.
Yeah.
Ever.
You're setting a lower ceiling, essentially. A lower ceiling for that heifer's lifetime milk production, her durability in the herd, all because she struggled through a really critical period where maybe cheap, poorly absorbed minerals just let her down.
And that's precisely why we need to challenge the conventional wisdom.
Yeah.
The stuff that's dominated the industry for so long. For too long, the narrative's been really simplistic.
No.
Hit your 18% to 22% crude protein target, and your calves will grow. Just like that.
Yeah, tick the box.
But the sources we reviewed, they confirm that the real efficiency lever, the true secret to unlocking growth and really maximizing that immune response, it's not the gross inclusion rate of the macronutrients.
No.
It is entirely about the forms and the bioavailability of the micronutrients, the vitamins, the trace minerals.
We've been focusing on the weight, right? The weight of the feed, not the actual biological activity of what's inside.
And that's a costly mistake, a really costly mistake.
Okay, so let's unpack this problem then. We've established that many operations are struggling, right? Struggling with calf health metrics. Even when they think they're using premium feed, they've got excellent management. Our source material laid out 5 pretty major warning signs, the red flags, that signal these pervasive hidden nutritional gaps.
And the first one is a big one. It's based on USDA NAHMS data, and it says, if you are seeing over 15% of your calves needing scours treatments, you are officially in the danger zone.
15%. That number should be like a screaming alarm bell going off in the calf barn.
Wait, 15%. Hold on, because I've heard so many producers say, 20%. That's just normal calf rearing attrition, especially if you get a patch of bad weather.
Right. Cost of doing business.
Yeah. Are you telling us that number has been kind of falsely normalized across the industry, that 15% is actually an indicator of a systemic failure happening?
That is exactly what the data suggests. 15% isn't just normal. It's a serious warning sign that those foundational immune defenses are collapsing way too often.
Okay, so for the farmer listening right now, let's translate that. Let's put it into time and money. If you have 100 calves born this season, right, and 16 of them, 16, need intensive scours treatment.
That's a lot.
You are burning up massive amounts of labor hours. You're constantly fighting fires instead of actually focusing on growth and prevention. That daily cumulative frustration, that is a huge hidden cost right there.
And the other 4 red flags, they just reinforce that something deeper is going on. Something beyond just, housing or sanitation must be wrong.
Like what?
Well, we're seeing pneumonia clusters, even in groups that are properly vaccinated against respiratory disease. Now, pneumonia, it's supposed to be a vaccine-preventable disease, right?
It's supposed to be.
So if it's showing up despite your best efforts, despite the vaccination program, that tells us the calf's immune system isn't properly primed to respond to that vaccine. And nutrition. Nutrition is the co-pilot of that immune system. It has to be firing right.
Okay, that makes sense. Then there's that other one, that really frustrating post-weaning growth slump. You get them through the milk phase, they transition, you hit weaning, and suddenly they just stall out. Or worse, they even lose weight for a week or two.
Classic sign. It's a classic sign that the calf's gut integrity or its ability to absorb nutrients during that stress period is fundamentally compromised.
So they're relying on stored reserves, basically, to power through that transition.
Exactly. And if those reserves are already depleted because they've been fed poorly absorbed mineral forms, well, they crash. They just don't have the fuel in the tank.
Right. And what about the non-specific signs? Those are maybe the most insidious because they don't always register on the vet's emergency list, do they?
No, exactly. It's the dull calves, the rough-coated ones. They just look off. They aren't necessarily spiking a fever, but they aren't thriving either. They look like they're perpetually playing catch-up, never quite reaching that genetic potential you paid for.
Yeah, you see them in the pen, and you just know something's not quite right. And the last one. Slow recovery.
Slow recovery from illness, yeah. Despite using standard, maybe even high-quality treatment protocols. If that calf's tissue reserves of crucial immune-supporting nutrients, think organic selenium, think natural vitamin E, if those reserves are already depleted when the challenge hits.
Then the antibiotic or the supportive therapy can only do so much.
Precisely. The biological repair mechanisms, the cellular rebuilding process, they just aren't firing optimally because the fundamental building blocks, they simply aren't there in sufficient usable form.
What's fascinating here is thinking about how these issues impact operations of different scales. For the massive operations, 15% scours, that translates to geometrically higher expenses. Medication, labor, maybe higher mortality rates even.
Huge numbers, yeah.
But for the smaller family farm dealing with these persistently sick calves, it's just a massive labor drain. It sucks time away from everything else, parlor efficiency, focusing on genetics work, getting field work done.
It's a foundational inefficiency, isn't it? It prevents management from ever really being proactive, always stuck in reaction mode.
It's all about focus.
Yeah.
When you're constantly treating scours and pneumonia, you're stuck reacting. These 5 red flags, what they're really telling you is that your nutritional foundation is structurally weak.
And the core problem, as we're going to keep digging into, is often the mineral delivery system itself. The form, not just the amount.
This is where, the bovine needs to step in and really challenge that conventional wisdom. Because everyone knows good calf management is key, right?
Yeah.
Clean bedding, good ventilation, adequate space. We all know that.
Standard practice.
But our sources, what they're revealing is that localized environmental factors, things in your soil, things in your water, these antagonists, they are actively sabotaging even the best programs, especially those relying on standard, one-size-fits-all feed formulations.
Exactly. You could be buying the most expensive, highly fortified feed on the market thinking you're doing everything right. But if your farm's well water is running high in sulfur, for instance,
which happens a lot in certain areas.
Or your soil is naturally rich in iron or maybe molybdenum, those environmental elements are acting like nutritional thieves. They literally chemically bind up the very minerals, the copper, the zinc, the manganese that you just paid a premium for.
Rendering them useless. Preventing absorption before the calf even gets a chance.
That's totally useless. Let's break down those major antagonists detailed in the source material because this is highly regional and people need to think about their specific location.
Okay.
We see widespread issues like selenium-poor soils. That covers huge swaths of the U.S. and Canada. If your crop is grown there, guess what? Your forages are going to be deficient from the start.
Right off the bat.
Then you have the risk of iron-rich dirt contaminating silage during harvest, especially if equipment scrapes a bit too low, gets some soil mixed in. This iron contamination, it acts as a really powerful blocker for the uptake of other key trace minerals.
And regionally, that high sulfur presence in well water, that's a massive issue for a lot of farms. It often converts essential minerals into indigestible compounds right there in the rumen.
Before they even have a chance to be absorbed lower down. But perhaps the worst antagonist, just in terms of mineral specificity, is molybdenum.
Well, yeah.
Molybdenum in forages, it specifically forms this tight, irreversible chemical bond that effectively ties up copper. And copper is a mineral desperately needed for immune function, for blood health.
And that explains so much. I love that producer quote that was cited in the source material because it just sums up this whole realization perfectly.
Which one was that?
He said, "I used to wonder why my neighbor's calves always looked healthier, even though we bought the same feed." Yeah, same brand, same tag. Turns out it wasn't about the protein. It was about getting minerals that could actually work with our local high-sulfur water conditions.
That flips the script entirely, doesn't it? It moves the whole conversation from what protein level am I feeding to
what mineral level is my calf actually absorbing given my specific farm's environment? It forces customization.
It really does. And you can often see the evidence of this mineral theft right there on the calf, especially with copper deficiency. There's a distinct visual cue we should mention.
The glasses look?
Exactly. Those pale rings around the calf's eyes,
Yeah.
what some farmers call the glasses look. The sources confirm chronic copper deficiency is a widespread problem in the US and Canada. You can't just throw copper, any old copper, in the feed and assume it gets used if your environment is actively fighting against it.
Yeah, to feed it in a form that can fight back.
Right.
A bioavailable form that can actually bypass that antagonist in the gut or in the water.
Precisely. Which brings us perfectly to the core of the solution, these 7 game changers. The thesis here, and it seems really undeniable based on the research coming out of places like Penn State and Wisconsin, is that bioavailability absolutely beats quantity, especially when those environmental antagonists are in play.
So it's not just about shoveling more in, it's about making sure what goes in actually works.
Exactly. Let's start with the first 3 key nutrients. These are essential for immediate immunity and that critical gut health. First up, vitamin E. It's the primary antioxidant shield for the cells.
Okay.
Now, if you're just hitting the basic minimum requirement listed on a standard feed tag, the research shows you're probably not achieving optimal performance, especially during stress.
Then the minimum isn't the optimum.
Not for real. High performance immune benefits, especially during stress like cold weather snaps, vaccination time, transport. Calves need a much higher level, somewhere in the range of 220 to 440 IU per kilogram of starter feed.
Wow. That's often double or triple the basic maintenance level you see on some tags.
It absolutely is. And here is where the form is the crucial catch. This is where the cost justification really starts to emerge. You absolutely must seek out natural vitamin E.
The D-alpha tocopherol form.
That's the one. The source material is crystal clear on this. Synthetic forms are just poorly utilized by the calf's body. The natural form gets absorbed with something like 2 to 3 times greater bioactivity.
Why is that?
Because the calf's body actually has preferential transport proteins, they're specifically designed, like little taxis, to carry that natural form across the gut lining and into the tissues where it's needed.
Okay, but hold on. If it's, say, 3 times the price for the natural form compared to the synthetic,
Yeah.
how do I justify that premium to my accountant or just to myself when I'm looking at the feed bill?
You justify it because the synthetic form is largely just being passed through without full utilization. You're paying for inclusion on the tag, not actual absorption and biological activity.
So you're paying for something the calf isn't really using effectively.
Right. If you're aiming for, say, 300 IU per kilogram on the tag, but only maybe 30% of your synthetic form is actually being used biologically, you've effectively wasted the majority of that input cost. The natural form ensures that investment actually reaches the immune cells where the work needs to be done. It's about value, not just cost per ton.
Okay, that makes the economic sense when you put it that way. What's next? Selenium.
Selenium, yeah. The missing piece, especially in those regions with selenium-poor soils we talked about, you absolutely need to hit that legal maximum, which is 8.3 ppm. But again, say it with me.
The form matters more than the number.
Exactly. We have to understand the difference between inorganic and organic selenium here. Inorganic selenium, like the cheap sodium selenite you often see,
Yeah, that's common.
It's quickly absorbed, sure, but it's also immediately flushed out by the body if it's not used right away. It offers basically zero long-term storage or defense capability.
So it's there for a moment, then gone.
Pretty much. Whereas organic selenium, which is typically selenium yeast, it does something fundamentally different. It builds those critical tissue reserves.
How?
It gets incorporated directly into the muscle tissue and into the immune cells themselves. So when the calf hits a stressful event, a sudden temperature drop, a sickness challenge like scours or pneumonia, those tissue reserves can be mobilized. They're called upon.
Like having a battery backup for the immune system.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. It prevents that devastating immune crash. That's the difference between a calf maybe powering through a minor challenge on its own versus one that ends up needing 5 days of intensive care and falling way behind.
Okay, selenium's critical. What's the third one for this segment?
Zinc, the gut guardian. We know strong gut integrity is absolutely essential for keeping pathogens out of the bloodstream, preventing things like leaky gut.
Leaky gut is a huge issue post-weaning.
Huge. For stressed calves, the new NASEM guidance suggests targeting 75 to 100 ppm of zinc. And again, we need highly bioavailable forms. Look for chelated or hydroxy sources on the tag.
And the major red flag here is?
Zinc oxide. Just like with copper later, zinc oxide is cheap, but its molecular structure is so tightly bound that it just can't easily dissolve and cross the gut lining to be absorbed effectively.
So it just passes right through.
Passes right through the calf's digestive tract and out the other side in the manure. You pay for it, the calf excretes it. It's incredibly inefficient.
And producers who switch away from oxide
consistently report major improvements. Better overall animal performance, better gut health, fewer issues around weaning. It's noticeable.
It's incredible how many times you still see the word oxide on a feed tag for these key minerals.
It is. It's basically the nutritional equivalent of throwing money down the drain during the most critical first few months of that animal's life. Yet it's included because, well, it helps hit that minimum inclusion number on the tag cheaply for the manufacturer.
But it doesn't deliver the performance.
Not when it really counts.
Okay, let's move on to the next set of these game changers then. We covered vitamin E, selenium, zinc for immunity, and gut. What's next?
Let's start with copper. We touched on it with the antagonists, but it deserves its own focus. Easy to lose, expensive to replace. As we discussed, if your environment is throwing those sulfur or molybdenum curveballs at you,
Which many are.
you need copper that can actually fight back and win that absorption battle.
Right, so the required level is, 10 to 15 ppm?
That's the target range, yes. 10 to 15 ppm. And to be truly effective against those antagonists, it must be from chelated or hydroxy copper sources. Again, the source material couldn't be clearer on this point.
Let me guess. Copper oxide.
Copper oxide is biologically unavailable, functionally worthless in this context. Feeding it is like, as the source implied, feeding the calf a copper penny.
It just sits there.
Its inclusion on a feed tag should be a massive, immediate red flag for any producer paying attention. You're paying for a mineral that simply won't get utilized, leaving your calf vulnerable to deficiency signs like that glasses look, and, more importantly, compromised immunity.
Okay, message received on oxides. What about manganese? That one feels a bit quieter.
It is the quiet builder, you're right. This mineral might not get the spotlight like copper or selenium, but it is absolutely critical for bone development and cartilage formation.
Which is huge for growing heifers, right? They need that strong structural foundation.
Absolutely, especially fast-growing heifers. We should be targeting around 40 ppm, and again, from organic or hydroxy sources for best results.
And does this connect back to the antagonist problem, too?
It does. Remember the high iron contamination risk in feeds, especially silages if soil gets mixed in?
Yeah, the dirt scraping issue.
Well, that high iron actively blocks manganese uptake. So using these bioavailable forms becomes necessary to overcome that specific iron interference and ensure the calf can build a robust skeleton for long-term health and productivity.
Okay, so copper and manganese need protection, too. Now, what about these stress combatants you mentioned, the amino acids?
Right. These are really interesting because they provide immediate targeted fuel during those high stress periods like transition and weaning. First one is glutamine. Think of it as the stress buster for the gut.
How does it work?
This amino acid directly fuels the enterocytes. Those are the cells lining the gut wall. When the calf is under duress, from weaning, transport, maybe a mild illness challenge, those gut cells are often starved for energy. They're turning over rapidly. They need fuel.
And glutamine provides that fuel directly.
Exactly. The target is around 1 to 2% of the total dry matter intake. But here is the absolutely crucial point. the detail that separates just okay feed from truly optimized feed.
Let me guess. It has to be protected.
It must be rumen protected. If you just feed free glutamine, it degrades quickly and almost completely in the rumen environment.
So the rumen bugs get it, not the calf's gut lining.
Precisely. And if it doesn't survive to reach the small intestine where those rapidly dividing gut lining cells desperately need it for fuel during stress, it does zero good. You've wasted your money feeding the rumen microbes instead of the calf itself.
Hold on, why can't we just feed more then? If it degrades, why not just overdose it so at least some makes it through? Is that feasible?
Because that's incredibly inefficient and would be prohibitively costly. The whole point is targeted delivery. The calf's gut lining needs this specific fuel during stress to maintain its integrity, to prevent that leaky gut syndrome we talked about. Rumen protection provides a sort of wrapper. It resists the neutral pH rumen environment, but then breaks down in the acidic conditions of the abomacim or the enzymatic environment of the small intestine. This ensures targeted delivery right where those gut cells are fighting to survive the transition of stress.
Got it. Protection equals targeted delivery equals efficiency. What's the other amino acid?
Arginine. Think of this one as the circulation enhancer.
Circulation, how does that help a calf?
It supports nitric oxide production in the body, and nitric oxide helps relax blood vessels, which aids blood flow. Good blood flow is vital because it helps immune cells and necessary nutrients reach infection sites much more quickly and efficiently.
So it helps the internal first responders get to the scene faster.
That's a good way to think about it.
Huh?
The target here is lower, maybe 0.25 to 0.5% of dry matter intake, but again, it also requires those rumen-protected forms to be effective.
So these two amino acids, glutamine and arginine, delivered strategically in protected forms, they're like a nutritional insurance policy against those inevitable high-stress events in a calf's life.
Exactly. It's about building resilience from the inside out.
We talked a lot about the science, the why behind these forms. Now let's really follow the money. Let's talk economics, because this is where the skeptical farmer listening starts doing the math in their head.
Right.
If a producer is spending slightly more per ton on a feed that contains these bioavailable forms, the proteinate zinc, the selenium yeast, the amino acid copper, what is the actual quantifiable payoff? Does it pencil out?
The economic impact is substantial, and crucially, it is quantifiable. Those organic or hydroxy forms, studies show they deliver somewhere between 15 to 30% better biological absorption compared to the cheaper sulfate, or especially the oxide forms.
15 to 30% better absorption. That's huge.
It's massive, especially when those environmental antagonists we keep mentioning, the sulfur, the molybdenum, the iron, are present and actively working against mineral uptake. You are literally getting up to a third more biological bang for every buck you spend on that specific mineral input.
Okay, 15-30% better absorption is great. But do we have hard numbers connecting that directly to reduced expenses on the farm? Like fewer vet calls?
We do. Our sources cited a pretty compelling statistic. Producers located in those known high sulfur or high iron regions, when they switch to using organic copper sources
instead of the standard cheap stuff,
they often see a staggering 20% reduction in scours treatments needed. 20%.
Okay, let's put that in dollars and cents for a minute, just to make it real. If a typical scour treatment, you factor in the medication, the syringes, your labor time pulling and treating, maybe some lost growth potential. Let's say it costs an operation maybe $50 per sick calf, conservatively.
Sounds reasonable.
If you have a 100 calf group and you reduce the incidence of scours needing treatment from 16 calves, the danger zone 15-16% rate we talk about, down to maybe 12 or 13 calves, that's a 20% reduction right there.
4 fewer calves needing treatment.
You're saving $150 to $200 per 100 calves immediately, just on medication and labor alone. That's before you even start trying to factor in the lifetime milk benefit of having a healthier calf that didn't get set back.
So yes, the feed with the bioavailable minerals might cost, say, $50 more per ton. But the ROI, the return on that investment, it can be almost instantaneous and clearly measurable, especially in challenging environments.
And we absolutely need to tie this back to that critical vulnerability period we mentioned earlier, the immunity gap.
Right, between 2 and 3 weeks of age, typically.
This is when the protection the calf got from mom's colostrum, those maternal antibodies, it starts to drop off pretty sharply. But the calf's own active immune system is still kind of slow and immature. It hasn't fully ramped up yet to close that defense gap.
It's a real double whammy of vulnerability, a dangerous window.
And this is the perfect moment to strategically hit them with those optimal levels of key nutrients we discussed.
Meaning that higher level, 220 to 440 IU per kilogram, of natural vitamin E.
And that legal maximum, 0.3 ppm of organic selenium from yeast.
This strategic timing, hitting them hard during this specific vulnerable period, it strengthens their own developing immune response, and critically, it maximizes the efficacy of any vaccinations you administer around that time.
So you're essentially using nutrition to make your vaccines work better, getting more value out of your vaccine program.
That's exactly it. It's about proactive investment versus reactive expense. Build the foundation strong before the challenge hits.
And the sources had a great case study example of this, didn't they?
They did. A producer in a known high-iron region who made the switch went entirely to a calf starter formulated with a full organic mineral package that chelated in hydroxy forms plus those higher natural vitamin E levels.
And the result?
2 years later, they reported having the healthiest heifer crop yet, far fewer vet calls, minimal pneumonia issues, and significantly better average daily gains right through the stressful weaning period.
That result isn't just a coincidence, is it? It sounds like the direct payoff of prioritizing bioavailability over just looking at the cheapest inclusion rates on the tag.
It's a complete and measurable shift in profitability, driven by understanding the fine print.
Which brings us right to the fundamental challenge here. After hearing all this, I'm just not buying the old industry advice anymore. I can't.
It feels outdated, doesn't it?
Completely. Everyone's still selling based on the idea of just hit 18% protein, maybe 20%, you're covered. But if the form of the nutrient delivers up to 30% better absorption, if it actively reduces the impact of environmental antagonists, and if that leads to maybe a 20% drop in scours treatments,
then nutrient form is the true efficiency lever, not just that headline protein number.
we absolutely need to shift the focus of the conversation, both with ourselves and with our nutritionists and feed suppliers.
So what we're really seeing is maybe decades of accepted wisdom being tossed out the window simply because we finally started looking closely at the fine print on the tag and asking the harder questions about actual utilization in the animal.
Yeah, what happens after they eat it question.
The hard truth, it seems, is that traditional strategies focus purely on meeting minimum nutritional requirements are fundamentally leaving money and growth potential on the table, especially during this most critical, high-growth, high-vulnerability period of a dairy animal's entire life.
The future of profitable calf rearing, it really has to be about tailoring the nutritional approach to defeat your specific local environmental conditions. One size definitely does not fit all anymore.
So we need a new management playbook then, particularly when it comes to feed procurement. When we talk to our feed representatives, we just can't ask about protein percentage and fat anymore and stop there.
No way. We need like a feed tag cheat sheet of new questions to ensure we're actually buying performance, not just buying weight in a bag.
We absolutely do. And the first question a modern, informed farmer needs to ask right out of the gate, based on the source material, is, what specific chemical forms of trace minerals are you using in this formulation?
And be ready for the answer.
Be ready. And if that answer includes the word oxide, zinc oxide, copper oxide, without a very heavy emphasis on predominantly using chelated or hydroxy forms alongside it.
That's a massive red flag.
Huge red flag. And you should seriously consider rejecting that feed, or at the very least, demanding a custom blend that prioritizes bioavailability.
Okay, question 1. What are the forms? What's number 2?
The second question, and this one might be more challenging to get a straight answer on, but you have to ask it. How do you specifically account for regional mineral antagonists in your standard formulation for this area?
Ooh, that challenges the standard bag mix they sell everywhere, doesn't it?
It does. You need to force them to acknowledge your specific local variations, like maybe high sulfur in your well water, or high molybdenum showing up in your hay analysis, and then explain how their mineral package is designed to overcome that specific interference.
You're asking them to prove their formulation is right for your farm, not just generically okay.
Exactly. And while it's not directly nutritional, pellet durability score is also a relevant question to ask. Good durability ensures the feed stays palatable, reduces dust and fines.
Which encourages higher dry feed intake, right? And that's essential for getting that rumen developed properly before weaning.
Absolutely. And finally, always ask, can you provide performance data, ideally from farms in my specific area, showing reduced treatment rates or better ADG after switching to this formulation?
Put up or shut up, basically.
Pretty much. If they are truly tailoring their approach to local conditions like they might claim, they should have local results, local proof to back it up.
This completely changes the entire procurement conversation, doesn't it? Yeah. It moves it away from just a price negotiation Who could offer me 18% protein for $5 less per ton, Paco?
To a performance specification discussion. You stop buying a commodity feed based on headline numbers, and you start investing in a tailored, potentially high ROI nutritional solution that is specifically designed to fight your farm's unique regional challenges.
Okay. The farmer listening, they've maybe just finished analyzing their own treatment records. After hearing this, they've pulled out their feed tags. They might be seeing some of those red flags we talked about. They're ready for the what now phase.
Right, the action plan. Let's structure the advice into 3 clear steps they can think about implementing. Something immediate for this week, a medium-term strategy for the next few months, and a longer-term positioning goal.
Okay, let's lay it out. What's step 1, immediate action?
Step 1, audit your feed tag and records. Right now, this week, pull those current treatment records. If you are seeing scours patterns consistently over that 15% mark, acknowledge you have a problem that needs addressing. Then, grab your feed tags, look closely for the mineral sources. Are they listing oxide forms prominently?
And if they are,
call your nutritionist or feed rep immediately with these new specific questions we just discussed. What are the exact forms? Are the amino acids rumen protected? How are you accounting for my regional antagonists? Start the conversation.
Okay, that's dual this week. Audit and ask tougher questions. What's the medium-term strategy say for the next 3 to 6 months?
Step 2, define your regional battleground. This means getting proactive. Test your farm's water, especially if it's well water, and maybe your soil or forages for those problematic antagonists. High sulfur, high iron, high molybdenum. Know your enemy.
Use that data then to negotiate a customized formulation if needed, right?
Exactly. And during this period, get really serious about closely tracking starter intake and average daily gain, ADG, for your calves. You need to establish a firm, reliable baseline for performance before you make changes so you can measure the improvement later.
Know where you stand now so you can see the difference later. Makes sense.
Okay, what's the long-term positioning, step 3, looking out over the next year or 2?
Step 3, invest in bioavailability and track the ROI. Based on your findings from steps 1 and 2, seriously consider upgrading your calf feeds to formulations with proven hydroxy or chelated mineral packages. Aim for those optimal levels we discussed, 220 plus IU/kg of natural vitamin E, and hitting that 0.3 ppm of organic selenium. And the key is tracking right.
Rigorously track the results. Don't just switch and hope. Monitor those key metrics, especially weaning transitions, treatment rates for scours and pneumonia, maybe even first lactation performance down the road. Quantify the competitive edge you gain to justify that potentially increased input cost. Prove the ROI to yourself.
That step 1 really is the easiest, cheapest, and most immediate thing anyone listening can do right now, isn't it?
Absolutely. Just look at your own records. If you're over 15% scours consistently, you have a problem that simply cannot be ignored anymore.
And then look at the feed tag. If you see zinc oxide or copper oxide listed high up without mention of better forms, you know exactly where a major efficiency leak likely is.
You have the right, and now the knowledge, to demand to know the specific bioavailable forms being used in the feed your future herd is consuming.
And that medium-term step 2, defining the battleground, that's just essential for customization, isn't it?
Yeah.
You can't effectively fight the enemy if you don't even know its name or where it's coming from.
Exactly. Testing your water and soil for sulfur, iron, molybdenum that gives you the specific ammunition you need to demand a feed formulation that actively overcomes your local mineral curveballs. It transforms a generic feed bag into a precision tool for your farm.
And then step 3, the long-term positioning. That's where you really find your sustainable competitive edge in this business.
Investing in those bioavailable mineral packages, it isn't just another expense line item. It's truly an investment. An investment that pays you back potentially many times over in lower vet bills, less labor spent treating sick calves, and most importantly, in better growth potential that carries right through to first lactation performance and beyond.
But you have to track it. Rigorously track those results, monitor treatment rates, watch those weaning transitions closely to prove to yourself and maybe to your lender that the investment is delivering that reported 20% reduction in scours or better growth and securing the healthiest, most profitable heifer crops possible for your operations future.
This has been another deep dive from the Bullvine podcast. The core takeaway here is really simple, isn't it?
Yet don't let hidden deficiencies steal your profits any longer. Properly sourced, bioavailable minerals are not just some nice-to-have addition. They are the fundamental competitive edge that separates the thriving operations from those constantly fighting preventable calf health battles day in and day out.
Use this analysis. Use these questions to fundamentally improve your procurement strategy, challenge the status quo, and secure your bottom line for the long haul.
And for more in-depth articles just like this, the kind that tell you what's really happening in the dairy industry beyond the headlines, head over to www.thebullvine.com.
We're releasing deep dives like this twice weekly now, so there's always fresh analysis coming your way. And trust me, you definitely don't want to miss what we've got coming next week. We're going beyond basic genetics and diving into a really provocative topic.
Oh yeah, what is it?
Beyond genomics. Is gene editing the next great leap for dairy cattle?
Wow, okay. That's going to be interesting.
It sure is. So subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss out. We'll see you next time.